Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on for Mike here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and also featuring that college football revamp as well. We are now going into the second half of the regular season. We've already seen some surprises, we have already seen some disappointments, but now we go to business. Now we get to the core of the questions that we need answered. Who is going to be competing for those conference championships at the end of this regular season? And not only that, who is going to be the 8 teams that will be participating in the college football playoff and ultimately competing for that ultimate prize? The ultimate prize being a national championship. So guys, it's going to be a fun episode. We're going to be going around the country. We have 16 nationally televised games that we will be taking you, as well as having some studio updates, checking in on some other games that maybe won't get a chance to watch in gameplay here today. It's going to be a fun one, man, so make sure you go ahead, smack that like button. It does help me out with that YouTube algorithm. And also, if you're brand new to the channel, if you love what you're seeing here on this channel, I encourage you, no, I implore you to hit that subscribe button so that we can grow this community. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the action. I'll see you guys there. So let's go ahead and get ourselves going here with some NCSL action. Jumping into that second half of the season, we got Texas taking on UTSA and the Longhorns. They are taking on this UTSA squad who is coming in at around 500 themselves, going to the Alamo Dome. One of these days, UTSA will have their own on-campus stadium, but for now, looks like the Alamo Dome will be the host of what could possibly be a runaway game already. Texas is up 14-0 already with an additional red zone opportunity, and Trey Dixon just running through some bodies. I can't believe that's not a touchdown right there. I thought he ran his way all the way into the end zone. Instead, a different running back is going to get the carry for the Texas Longhorns, and it is David Massey. David Massey is going to get a 2-yard scamper into the end zone, allowing them to take a 21-0 lead, as UTSA still desperately searching, trying to get points on the scoreboard just so that they won't get blanked against this Texas squad. Whether that actually happens or not, you know, we'll see what happens. But UTSA facing a 3rd and 12 and trying to get that pass off, but throwing an interception, and that unfortunately means UTSA going to be kept off the scoreboard a little bit longer, and Texas is going to just drive themselves right down the field, throwing over the middle to none other than Walter Sims, who gets yet another touchdown for the Texas Longhorns. This was quick and painless as Texas wins big in this one, 45-14, as they remain undefeated on the season. Meanwhile, that being said, we'll have the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. They're looking to also continue their undefeated campaign as well. They'll be taking on the Michigan State Spartans. Now, this Michigan State team is not what they were back in season number 1. They are not ranked in the top 25 at the moment, but a win here on the road in Columbus, Ohio could change all of that. Michigan State, a decent football team after all, and you know, even before we go into the halftime locker room, they get it down to just a field goal deficit. So Michigan State very much in this game, but one quarterback that has really stepped up this year is Vincent Gold, who's just found ways to continue to hang tough in the pocket and just make big plays for this Ohio State offense. He didn't even start as the best quarterback on the team. He started out as the backup. But I'll tell you what, Vincent Gold, man, he has delivered in the absence of the starting QB, and Ohio State extends their lead. Vincent Gold putting together a really impressive performance so far. Already 3 passing touchdowns in this first half alone. We'll see if he can build onto that here in the second half, as Ohio State looks to try to widen this gap here late in the 3rd quarter of action, as Gold is going to go ahead and run the speed option over to the left-hand side, makes a couple guys miss, and Brian Britt finds the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State. So Ohio State now with a 31-14 lead here in the 4th quarter of action. Michigan State looking to cut it to within 10, but too little too late, as Ohio State, they do what they came out ready to do, and that's remain undefeated on the year as well. However, we have a couple of other games getting ready to take off. How about some action here before we check in on the number 18 team in the entire country, as the Penn State Nittany Lions? We'll check them out later, but for right now, we're going to dive into West Virginia playing Louisville. Now, this game on paper doesn't seem like that big of a deal as well. Neither team is above 500, but both these teams, believe it or not, are in the MAC title race, and this could have a big effect on who ends up playing in that MAC championship down the road. I believe these two teams are actually in the same division. But that being said, West Virginia has a 10-0 lead already, trying to keep Louisville at bay, who is just simply trying to keep their season alive as well. They need a massive second half kind of turnaround in order just to be bowl eligible. And with how bad the MAC conference is, who knows whether 6 wins would actually be enough to make it to a bowl game in the MAC. But needless to say, Louisville goes ahead and ties it up here. Justin Cook gets the carry right up the gut, and nobody's gonna touch him. He is gonna be booty naked for a little bit, but West Virginia, well, it's not gonna take them very long to retake the lead, as the true freshman James Johnson out of Broadview Heights, Ohio, he's going to give West Virginia the lead. And it seems like the Mountaineers, well, they're just not going to look back. They extend their lead to a 20-10 affair late in the third quarter. Louisville needs a response, fires to the wide receiver, and it is going to be a touchdown for the Cardinals. Justin May gets his first passing touchdown of the day, but Louisville will never reclaim the lead at any point, as West Virginia gets above 500. Meanwhile, Penn State goes on the road to take on the Pittsburgh Panthers in what is going to be a battle for the Keystone Pipeline game. It is a rivalry game between these two teams. I probably butchered that rivalry game name. Pittsburgh was a team that started off 2-0 and was ranked in the top 25, but ever since they have lost 4 consecutive games. So, nothing like a good old-fashioned rivalry game to try to turn things around, but Pittsburgh not playing at a very high level at the moment. It looks like that is going to continue, as even though Penn State didn't really do terribly much today on the offensive side of football, they're still going to win pretty comfortably against this Pittsburgh squad, as Penn State's going to win here 23-15 in spite of not too much offense happening in this particular game. But that being said, though, guys, we are going to have a lot happening here pretty soon. We got 6 nationally televised games going on at the exact same time, including multiple top 25 matchups, if I'm not mistaken. Most notably, I believe Arkansas and not Ole Miss, but somebody else. Might be Arkansas and Alabama, actually. But first things first, we're going to go back into the Midwestern part of the country. Michigan is taking on the Purdue Boilermakers, and Michigan comes in ranked number 20 in the country. They actually most recently lost to Akron, of all people. They lost to the Akron Zips, but right now Michigan's has a decent lead, but having a hard time finding the red zone here in the first half, trying to find the end zone. First time in 4 red zone trips, and they will with Jeff Griffin. He was just wide butt naked open in the back of the end zone. So Michigan has a 16-0 lead. Defense is playing absolutely phenomenal. Purdue has not even had any red zone opportunities in this entire game so far, but that does come to an end eventually. Purdue does find the scoreboard, but Michigan kicker's been pretty clutch here today. Kicker does really good job making sure that extra points getting put on the scoreboard, even though offense doesn't do really its best job today, and the defense really just rattling around. That's the only turnover that this Michigan defense forced. But Purdue, they will have hapless on offense today, less than 60 yards of rushing, as Michigan will likely be back in the top 25. However, that being said, we have these two teams in the ACC conference be a nice little rivalry game here. Charlotte comes in 5-2, and what the heck is going on? Appalachian State's gonna take the lead? Are you kidding me right now? Wow, that is, I can't believe that pitch actually happened. Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? ladies and gentlemen, certainly something that this Appalachian State team needed. They need to win this game, by the way, if they want to try to keep their hopes alive to go to a bowl game. It looks like Appalachian State is rising to the occasion as Matt Kaplan's going to find the end zone. Really nice play call, by the way, by Jamar Lewis. He's the offensive coordinator here at Appalachian State. One of your custom coaches here as well. Scott Hines is also going to get a reception here. Gain of 12 on that one. As now 13-6 is your current score, as we'll see Kaplan drop back the pass. He finds a man in Scott Hines in the end zone. And what about this for a surprise? Appalachian State actually has a pretty good lead. 19-6 is your score. Now, granted, the App State kicker is pretty booty cheeks. He only goes 1 for 3 on extra points in the first half. But, you know, Charlotte's struggling right now. They are riding that struggle bus pretty darn good at the moment. But they will try to get back into this game. Scott Lacey will make it just a one-possession affair. Even have a chance here late in the third quarter to retake the lead, as Akeem Edwards actually gets that particular pitch that time around. It doesn't go out into yonder like the one pitch that we saw in the beginning of the game. But carry up the middle, going back to Akeem Edwards. He's going to run through a couple of App State defenders, and just like that, Charlotte has the lead once again, which does put the pressure back on Appalachian State. Down by 1 early in the fourth quarter. We'll see if Kaplan can, get this offensive juice back, as Appalachian State was shut out in the third quarter of action. And Kaplan, he's going to do exactly that, as the Mountaineers are going to retake the lead. And not only will they score the touchdown as well, but they're actually going to go for 2 here, and they are successful with the 2-point conversion, which means they are now just 1 quarter away from getting their very first win on the season. It would be a massive upset, and it looks like it's becoming more likely by the minute that App State is actually going to pull this off. This is a surprising development. The Appalachian State Mountaineers, winless over the course of the entire season. Well, they are here, and they suddenly are going to not only possibly win this game, unless something absolutely insane happens here, but we're talking about a team that blows out Charlotte. Charlotte is a very good football team, one of the better teams that are not ranked in the top 25, so this result is an absolute surprise for sure. But now we'll check in across the country. We'll go see number 5 UCLA. They will be taking on the Wildcats of Northwestern. Northwestern looking to get closer to 500 again and pull off a pretty amazing upset, trying to get some respect for the MAC conference, as UCLA looking to remain in that college football playoff conversation. A loss to Northwestern would certainly not help those chances at all whatsoever. But UCLA takes the lead in the first quarter and look to go up 14-0, as quarterback's going to go ahead and run it himself, and Brian Daniels, well, he's going to be shut down, but they're going to go for it on 4th and inches, and they actually do pick up the first down, which eventually does turn into yet another touchdown for UCLA. The Bruins are up 14-0 early, but Northwestern, they are looking to not just lay down and die. Their season could very well be on the line here in these next couple of weeks. Got to get back on track, and a win here, well, Northwestern desperately needs one for sure. First and goal coming up now as the Wildcats run the ball over the right-hand side. It's going to be some tough running for Troy Washington, who get inside the 5-yard line there. And it'll be a 2nd and goal situation now as the Wildcats continue attack on the ground, and the Northwestern offensive line wins today, and Troy Washington gets the scoring started for the Northwestern Wildcats, as they will pull within a touchdown of UCLA for now. We'll see if they can do that again here in this 2-minute drill over the right-hand side. Dangerous throw. That somehow does get completed. Receiver hung on and made a catch there. as it will turn into another touchdown a few plays later. Northwestern very much still in this thing. A chance for him to actually take the lead here, as there's some time for this quarterback to throw the ball. Throws over to the left-hand side to find Jeff Marshall, who does a little bit of that cutback cheese. But now in UCLA territory once again. Less than a minute left. UCLA sends the blitz, but it's picked up pretty well and finds Brian Taylor for a 32-yard strike. And Wildcats will not waste any time. They know that momentum is more than surely on their side. 1st and 10, going no huddle. Attacking quickly downfield, and it's Ben Edwards in the end zone. Touchdown, Wildcats. And Titus Dunbar fires a strike that gives Northwestern the lead. But can they hold on to that lead for the rest of the half? UCLA trying to run their own 2-minute drill. Less than 30 seconds left, and the Bruins have to use one of their timeouts. This is going to be the last play of the first half. Daniels got some time, fires downfield, and finds an open Kobe Green. How do you get somebody that wide open, that far down the field? So UCLA has a 3-point lead going into the half. And then in the second half, we might start to see really the talent in the depth chart start to show the difference between these two teams. Northwestern really did not have much business keeping up with UCLA the way that they did in this first half of action, but in the third and fourth quarter, so it looks like it's going to be all Bruins here, as UCLA is going to run the ball down the sideline and is going to score. Touchdown UCLA. And the Bruins, they're going to win pretty substantially here. They're going to win this one 48-21, showing why they're deserving to go back into the college football playoff. Now, all things considered, we now check in on number 3 team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs, taking on another team from the MAC Conference, Tennessee. Now, Tennessee was off to a 4-0 start, but they have lost their last couple of games. But man, it is going to be one heck of a challenge if they want to come out here and get the road win here in Athens, Georgia. Because Georgia, well, they've been rolling pretty well all season long, undefeated, coming in at that number 3 ranking in the country. So we'll see how this game unfolds as we get in late in the first quarter. Game is still tied at a field goal apiece, but we will see our first touchdown on the scoreboard thrown to Antonio Paris. Georgia will take a 10-3 lead at the end of the first quarter. But then Tennessee couldn't really respond. So Georgia, that offense comes out onto the field once again, is able to get yet another red zone opportunity. We'll see if the Tennessee defense can hold it down like a stone wall. And it looks like they will not. Adam Williams gets untouched all the way into the end zone as well, and Georgia extends their lead, looking to do the same thing in the final minute of this first half. As Bryant drops back, looks over to the left-hand side, got a receiver in Zach Grigsby. Will they get up to that line of scrimmage in time? And it looks like they do, so they are able to preserve their one timeout that they have, and Elliott Hartman all by himself finds the end zone, and it's a touchdown for the Georgia Bulldogs. And Georgia just runs away with it in that second half as well. They win by 30+ against Tennessee. But that being said, we got ourselves a top 25 matchup on our hands. We got Virginia Tech taking on North Carolina, and this could be a game that we possibly see for the ACC championship, as North Carolina, they are leading the Commonwealth division right now, but in the Carolinas division, it looks like Virginia Tech is the very team that is currently on top here at this present moment. So we'll see how this game plays out, because remember, all of the conference championship games are on the home stadiums of the best conference record. So both teams from the best division do end up going to the conference championship, but whoever has the better conference record of the two will have the conference championship game at their home stadium. could be a massive advantage to whoever wins this game. And Virginia Tech, they're doing really good. You saw that interception right there. They're coming in here 6-0, and they're going to make it 7-0, and this is a great way to start. Ryan Scott found in the back of the end zone, courtesy of the arm of Micah Barbour. And Virginia Tech is going to open up with a 7-0 lead here in North Carolina. That being said, North Carolina looking to respond back. Coming in ranked number 13 in the country. That's a dot! A dot over to Ellis Hawk in North Carolina. Here in the second quarter will answer back. It was a back and forth affair all through this first half. A lower scoring first half, might I add. But we got ourselves a just scrum here in Chapel Hill, as we still have a 7-7 score, but North Carolina, they take the lead. Chris Mitchell able to break the top of the defense, and the North Carolina Tar Heels, they'll take their first lead of the day against the Virginia Tech Hokies. And Virginia Tech could be in some trouble to lose their very first game of the season. However, they do end up missing the extra point, so it's 13-7. So that means that instead of Virginia Tech just simply tying it thanks to that touchdown to Gerard Marquardt, no, they are actually going to take the lead as long as they're able to get the extra point, which they actually do. So Virginia Tech does have the lead. It's looking good for the Hokies. But how about Micah Barbour going to work? Oh my! Micah Barbour wanted to find that end zone, and man, did he find it like a Blues Clue. Touchdown Virginia Tech, and the Hokies extend their lead, and they have a real shot getting the 7-0, and should they make it to the conference championship game, they could possibly be the ones that could be hosting the conference championship game at Virginia Tech Stadium. They don't want that Enter Sandman, but North Carolina, they have something to say about it. Still a lot of football left in this game. About 6 minutes left. And the Tar Heels do cut it down to 2. But they'll also go for the 2-point conversion as well, because of the mixed extra point in the previous touchdown. And Bates, he's got a decent amount of time. Eventually fires to the corner of the end zone. He had a man, but unfortunately did end up missing his man. So North Carolina down by 2. And they're going to have to get into field goal range if they have a shot of winning this game right here, right now. That sack not going to help him. It's going to drive him into North Carolina territory, but in spite of that, they have one more shot to win the game. 5 seconds left, and Bates scores! Danny Bates is going to score in North Carolina. They might have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. They will end up going for the 2-point conversion, so that worst case scenario, if Virginia Tech scores a touchdown, at least they'll have to hit the extra point in order to actually win the game. But that will ultimately not be necessary, as Virginia Tech was stopped on the ensuing kickoff. And it's over. North Carolina's going to win this game 21-27, as the Virginia Tech Hokies, they lose their first game of the season, while Virginia Tech improves to 5-1. But that was not the only top 25 matchup that we had on the docket here, as Arkansas is slated to go over here to Bryant-Denny Stadium, and they will be taking on this Alabama Crimson Tide team. Arkansas comes in ranked in the top 10, while Alabama, might get a little bit of love thanks to the name that is on the helmet, as they do come in 4-2. They're ranked number 21 here in the entire country. So Alabama probably needs to win this game in order to remain in the top 25, and this is not how you want to start a game. Curtis West is going to fumble the ball. He puts the ball on the ground, and Ryan McCoy, he's just going to scoop it up, and he's going to take it into the end zone all by himself. I mean, Ryan McCoy, once he got the ball in his hands, well, he was gone like a girl in a country song. We'll put it like that. So Arkansas will have a 7-0 lead. That was the only score that we did end up seeing in the first quarter. But then Michael Motley, he's going to end up making a couple of guys miss here, as Michael Motley gets the first offensive touchdown of this entire game, as Michael Motley just goes out and does really a beautiful job of running that particular option, as Motley gives Arkansas a 14-0 lead, with Alabama desperately needing to respond. And Curtis West, he's got a heck of an arm. He's going to find his receiver down the sideline. It's Ryan Steffens, who is going to burn the defense as he was butt naked, wide open. I mean, I could have led him down the field with the amount of space that he had on the outside. Not sure what Arkansas was thinking there, as we already knew what Alabama was going to do in that last minute or so. So, you hate to see it, but Arkansas could answer back here, possibly with another touchdown. George Bates throws a couple of defenders down with absolute violence. He chose violence this morning. As now, Motley, couple plays later, he'll find Zach Bank. And the Arkansas Razorbacks, well, they'll get it back up to a 2-score game as Michael Motley, well, he has his second overall touchdown of this game thus far. And that was a beautiful job just remaining composed in the pocket. So now Alabama needs to answer back as Arkansas tries to send some pressure, and Alabama does not give him enough time. Ryan McCoy is able to get to him. He's able to bring him down as the blitz does work that time around and will force a third down. Arkansas bringing the blitz, but it works poorly this time, as now we have a man on the loose, and it's none other than James Robinson, who gets him into the red zone as Alabama looks to put it back within a touchdown. Curtis running the read option. He keeps it himself, and ain't nobody there to cover him. That is going to be a touchdown for the Crimson Tide of Alabama. And we might have a game on our hands once again. Very next possession, though, Motley drops back, max protection, fires to the left-hand side, and he's able to break away. Zach Beck scores. Second touchdown of the day for both Motley in the air and Zach Beck with his beautiful hands and that breakaway speed as well. It's not very easy to make Alabama DBs get embarrassed, but that's exactly what we saw there. Arkansas looking like a team that's ready to pull away now as they have a 31-14 lead going into the final quarter, but Alabama's not giving up. Tim Moore gets his second sack of the ball game and just lighting him on fire, forcing Arkansas to actually settle for this field goal here. The kick is up, and it will be good, actually. So Arkansas will have a 34-14 lead, which will actually end up being your final score. The Razorbacks get a key win in Sun Belt Conference play, as that will get them to 5-1 in the Sun Belt, while Alabama suffers their second loss in conference play, 4-3 overall, with that top 25 ranking in serious jeopardy. Now, that being considered, we do have some studio updates, and how about this for a particular shocker? Washington State is able to pull off the upset against Cal, 27-14. Washington State is now bowl eligible and maybe looking to get into the top 25 as well. But in other news, we have a key battle out in the Mountain West, and UNLV is able to win it 27-21. UNLV could be a team that's also in the top 25 soon, but we have a bunch of other games that are getting ready to kick off and get things going. Multiple top 25. Well, Miami's going to be going into action. Baylor could work themselves into the top 25 eventually, but first we'll see them take on TCU in Big 12 conference action. TCU, of course, has their defensive coordinator that's one of your guys' customs, Jake Jacobs, while Baylor has their quarterback, Wes Jacobs, who is a he is a custom player for you guys as well. And Baylor's looking good offensively early on. Already has a 14-0 lead midway through that first quarter of action. So TCU, they could use some points, because the way that this game is going, well, it could very well end up being a shootout. It's just dependent on whether TCU's offense is going to decide to participate or not. Although it wouldn't help if Baylor could actually get some stops, or at least get stopped on the offensive end as well. Looks like TCU is just having a hard time making that happen right now. First and goal again for the Baylor Bears, as their quarterback is going to take off, makes a couple of guys miss, and Wes Jordan almost finds the end zone. He's almost there, but instead it's going to be second and goal. Can TCU get a goal line stand here. They're going to run the speed option, and just not enough athleticism on the TCU defensive line to cover Wes Jordan because, I mean, defensive line played it pretty decently, just, didn't have the athletic talent to actually get the tackle that they were looking for. And that just seems like the big difference in this one. It seems like Baylor, I mean, these two teams have similar overalls, but Baylor just looked like the more athletic team out here, and it's really showing on the scoreboard. Already 28-7 as we jump to the fourth quarter, as Wes Jordan will go ahead and put a little bit of that icing on the cake. Wes Jordan gets a second passing touchdown of the day as the Baylor Bears will roll here in Waco, Texas, beating TCU 42-7 in order to get to 4-2 on the year. Now we go over to the opposite side of the country with some Mountain West action as we will go ahead and check in on Utah taking on the Broncos of Boise State. Boise State, your runners-up in the Mountain West back in year number 1, but not really playing at that same level so far this year as they're 2-4 at the moment. So, neither team really still trying to find that footing and looking to play a little bit better here in the second half of the season. But right now, we're just seeing them go back and forth. They're both still feeling each other out. Really don't see anything too crazy happen here until that fourth quarter. That is an incredible spin move to get that defender off him. Gives just enough time to get that pitch off. Gets the pitch off to Anderson. Boise State with their biggest lead of the day. They're up by 18 as Utah's looking for some semblance of an offense today. Well, I mean, they'll find it here in the fourth quarter, but is there enough time for Utah to pull off some sort of comeback? They're already down by 12 still, but that 2-point conversion by Chris Douglas, well, that will certainly go ahead and make things interesting. They will need a stop on the other end, a turnover of some sorts. However, they will not get that pleasure as Boise State scores once again. Jeff Owens finds him in the corner of the end zone. So now Utah, they got to go extremely quick on this offensive end. And not only that, they might need an onside kick or two in order to truly make things shake. Second and goal now, as I actually thought Utah got into the end zone on that previous play. Didn't happen, but it won't affect them too much on the scoreboard as Matt Gaffer finds the end zone for the Utes. But unfortunately for Utah, that is going to be too little too late as they waited too long to get their offense going. Boise State's going to win this one. Now, all things considered, we now go over to the American Conference with Missouri taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin, a team that did go to the college football playoff last year, but Wisconsin not that same team that we had previously. They're already 3-4 in this one as they're trying to, just get the bowl eligibility at this point. I don't think they're as worried anymore about going to a conference championship or going to the college football playoff because they don't look like they're ready to do that this year. But Wisconsin will at least get the first points on the board for this particular game. And they are still in things for the Frontier Division, if I say so myself. But Missouri, they're looking to take the lead here. And how about this running? I thought Brendan Green was going to get more, but he actually gets pushed back here. -5 yards, so that's going to make this third down conversion a little bit harder to do, especially in the red zone. But Steve Stanley finds that open space for Jake Lewis. And we had a tight game for a little bit, but Wisconsin does score off screen in the second quarter. So now Missouri is down by a touchdown once again as one of their running backs is going to go down with an injury. And that is Patrick James, the FCS transfer from Southeast Missouri State. So, all things considered, 14-7 is still your score as Jake Lewis, he's going to have to make things shake in the back of the end zone, and they do with Ricky Williams, who's listed as a tackle. He was called an eligible receiver, and look at that, Missouri, it looks like they are going to be taking a lead into the halftime locker room, and they might be running away with it a little bit here. Still a close score going into the fourth quarter of action, and Missouri now has a 27-17 lead, and we're going to finish the deal here with 6 minutes left. Lewis fires over the middle, finds Brandon Green, the running back that replaced Patrick James following his injury. Hopefully it isn't too serious But now, goal line situation again, and Jake Lewis, he's going to find the end zone, and that's going to be a touchdown for the Missouri Tigers, as they will get above 500. They'll beat Wisconsin here, 34-17 in this one. But now we got the defending national champions, Miami, taking on Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech not playing at that same level that we saw them play at in year number 1. Georgia Tech not only going to a bowl game, but I'm pretty sure that they won a bowl game back in year number 1. Just 1-4 so far over the course of this season. But a win here against Miami could turn things around. And with that interception in the red zone, Georgia Tech actually has a lead here. They're up 3-0 and could extend it further midway through the second quarter. Goal line opportunity. They're going to run it up the gut. And David Garcia, he finds the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Yellow Jackets. And Miami officially on upset alert now, as we are 2 minutes left in the first half. They just now scored. In this game as Jerry McBride finally gets them into the end zone. But that was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. So now Georgia Tech up 10-7. And that was the score at the half, but it looks like Miami starting to find a little bit more rhythm on offense. They've kind of struggled in the last game or two here in gameplay. Miami, a team that is always on national television, so maybe the pressure of repeating as a national champion starting to get to them a little bit, dare I say it? I don't know about that, but David Garcia, he'll score again for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and they'll take a lead into the fourth quarter. So Miami has to win the fourth quarter, otherwise they will not be winning this game, and therefore likely not going to the college football playoff as well, as Miami will kick this field goal. It's going to be good. So a couple of field goals in the fourth quarter will carry Miami over Georgia Tech, but boy, was it a lot closer than what it should have been, as Miami survives a serious scare. So now we get a little bit more of a studio update as we check in on Houston taking on UTEP. How about this UTEP Miners team? They win 34-18 here, and they are going to get to 5-1. So a surprisingly good year for the UTEP Miners. But after that, we have some other studio updates happen as Rice, the Rice Owls. This is why you do not play with your food. Rice is up 34-31. They win there. And then Fresno State pulls a shocker off against Oregon. Fresno State wins 35-31 as the Oregon Ducks, well, they might be flying out of the top 25 here. The Bulldogs get a big win at home with that one. In other news, in terms of other studio updates, we get one out in the Mountain West, and Utah State is able to beat New Mexico 34-31 as the Aggies get their second win of the season. But now we start to get into the last couple of games of gameplay here in this episode. We got the Kansas Jayhawks going on the road to take on the Oklahoma Sooners. These two teams in different conferences with the geographical realignment that happened within the NCSL. But Oklahoma, well, they are trying to find that footing. I'm surprised that this particular team is 1-4, because when you see the talent on paper at least, this should be a team that's at least above 500. So I'm really surprised to see Oklahoma be where they are right now. Again, but they do have this Kansas team. Kansas doesn't have that same talent. So hopefully Oklahoma can use this as that quote-unquote get-right game. And it looks like they are starting to get it right here a little bit, as 20-7 is going to be your score going into that third quarter of action. And Oklahoma really opening up here in the third quarter. Reggie Anderson, he's going to run it into the end zone, I believe, for the second time today. However, they do end up missing the extra point. So 26-7 is your score going into the fourth quarter. Kansas trying to put together a drive late in this game as they're trying to work themselves back into this game. But 4th and 17, well, they certainly didn't make it easy on themselves, and yet they find a way to convert it. Tyrone Givens is open in the back of the end zone. That's only the 8th completion for Jayhawks football all day today. it was a rough one to watch on the passing game, but Kansas does make it really interesting towards the end, but Oklahoma will end up hanging on and winning 26-21. But now for the final game that we have in this episode, for the thumbnail game, we got a rivalry game between the Stanford Cardinal and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Notre Dame comes in just 2-4, while Stanford comes in at 3-4. Meanwhile, so both of these teams also trying to play some better ball in the second half so that they can actually experience a thing or two about bowling within the year 2 bowl season, which is an absolute spectacle of an episode in its own right. So Notre Dame is up 24-0 already. They seem like they're taking it a little bit more seriously than what Stanford is. And, you know, Stanford is just one of those teams that, well, you don't know what you're going to get out of Stanford. We saw them pull some big upsets in the past. Like, they beat Oregon, I believe. So, you know, this Stanford team could play with the better teams in the country, but they're really not showing it here today, are they? Stanford already down 24-6, but it looks like they will get the 2-point conversion at least, so that they make it a 2-possession game. However, in the second half, Notre Dame was firing on all cylinders on the offensive side of the ball in the first half, and looks like there's nothing that's going to suggest that's not going to change anytime soon, as Notre Dame scores another touchdown there. Already got that 30 burger. Going to be closing in on that 40 and 50 burger if Stanford does not get it right on the defensive end quickly, as they face yet another goal line situation. Dropping back, Hunt. No, he's going to run himself, and Notre Dame scores another, as the Fighting Irish do win big in this one, 47-22, and they get one here on College Game Day. But we take the time now to take a look around the country for other notable scores here in week number 8. And for the custom coaches, this was not a great week. For Thomas Hammock Jr. and his Northern Illinois Huskies, they not only lose to Marshall, but they lose to Marshall by a pretty substantial margin. Marshall wins 41-10 as they're 3-4, while the Huskies fall to 4-3. Meanwhile, the week after Hawaii blows the doors off of Stanford, we have a massive letdown by the Rainbow Warriors. Hawaii loses just their second game of the season as Oregon State wins 41-7. Hawaii's going to have to wait for another day to become bowl eligible. And to round out some updates from the custom coaches, Auburn took on the Troy Trojans, and Troy is still looking for their first conference win of the season. Auburn wins 52-10 as they get to 4-3 overall and 3-2 in conference play. That being said, we go to the rest of the country where Syracuse gets to 6-1, so they are officially bowl eligible once again as they get a win over Buffalo 31-17. Ole Miss also does the same thing as they are very safe for bowl eligibility but fighting for a college football playoff spot. They blow out San Jose State 48-0, doing it with absolute authority. As for the Kentucky Wildcats, they continue to roll here in year number 2 as they are now bowl eligible at 6-1. They get a massive victory over the Fighting Illini of Illinois as Kentucky wins 41-7. Speaking of being impressive, how about Akron surpassing expectations? They blow out Indiana 37-7, and the consequences of that is that Akron, well, they're just one win away of bowl eligibility, doing their best to surprise the entire country. Cincinnati is also looking to get back on track as they take care of business against a hapless Ball State squad. Cincinnati is now back at 500 with a 35-point win. The Cardinals in danger now of going winless on the entire season. As for James Madison, we watched them lose their very first game of the season here in year number 2, but they were able to bounce back as they take care of a pretty good team in Boston College, 27-24. Because of this, James Madison will be back inside the top 25. As for the Army Black Knights, they were ranked in the top 25, but that will no longer be the case as they lose to Maryland 27-20. The Terps deserve top 25 consideration as they're 5-2 themselves, looking to make some noise here in the second half of this season. Nebraska also had a fight on their hands as they took on a underrated Western Michigan squad. However, the Broncos couldn't finish the deal, and Nebraska wins 28-18, and the Cornhuskers improve to 7-1 on the year. For the Tulane Green Wave, they've been flying under the radar for most of this season as they get another win against Arkansas State, 34-28. Tulane 1 win away from bowl eligibility. They're also a team to keep an eye on here in the second half of the season as well. Of course, we have the Washington Huskies, who have really had the benefit of a really difficult schedule. They're at 500, but they will be number 20 in the country with a 31-24 win over the Nevada Wolfpack, which also is a little bit better than maybe what their record shows. But Iowa will not have that same benefit as they will fall out of the top 25. They lose to Eastern Michigan 24-19 in conference play. Iowa will now be considered unranked. So this is what the coaches poll is now looking like as we go into week number 9 action. Top 3 teams are still the same in USC, Ohio State, and Georgia, who are undefeated. Rice, though, is making some waves here as they're number 4 in the country with a 6-0 record. Rice, a team that did win their bowl game last year against Louisiana Monroe, well, they have a lot of momentum here in year number 2. In fact, so much so that Miami and UCLA both fall 1 spot. So does Ole Miss, even though they all have wins on their schedule themselves. So a lot of respect for Rice, while Louisiana Tech hangs at number 8. That's because they were on bye. Texas in the top 10 as well. They are number 9 in the country. Pretty good win over UTSA, handling their business. Arkansas and Nebraska will hold. North Carolina, Syracuse, Tulane all move up a spot as well. And then Minnesota, they get the benefit of moving up a couple of spots. And they do so even though they were actually on bye this past week. So Minnesota didn't have to do anything. They move up a couple of spots. Penn State also moving up a couple of spots. They won the Keystone Pipeline rivalry game against Pitt. Michigan, they're up 3 spots to number 17. They had a 22-point win over Purdue. But then we get to this bottom half of the top 25. We got Cal at 18 after a shocking loss to Washington State, but they're still here in the top 25 for now. Virginia Tech is at 19. They actually just lost their very first game of the season, and Charlotte will not be a lot easier. Washington, they're up 3 spots to number 20. Navy up to 21. James Madison is back, and rounding out your group is Alabama at 23. Baylor at number 24. They came off a big win against TCU. And then Colorado State is in the top 25. They'll be ranked number 25 in the country. Maybe the biggest surprise here in year number 2. So it's been a fun season, and this fun season has created some surprises. Who could have foresaw Rice at number 4 in the country? But this second half of the season, well, there's more in the wings waiting for you guys, and it's going to be fun to see how it all goes down. So hope you guys are excited for that. But if you enjoyed this iteration of the NCSL Dynasty, do me a favor and please smack that like button. That'll help me out with the YouTube algorithm, get some more college football fans like yourself. And then also hit the subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand spanking new to the channel. This is John Jake Gaming on the mic signing off. But when you guys are all out there having a good one, take care, everybody.